Live, and anyone who's subscribed to the Console Training YouTube channel's phone would have just lit up.
Drinks in hand.
None of you guys, which was none of you guys. Thanks a lot.
No, my phone just blew up.
No, that's good. All right. So welcome to the first ever Console Training Live Lighting Designers panel. Here we have Brad Alcock, Dave Fairless, and down in the bottom right-hand corner is Richard Neville with a zoom icon over the top of his face. It's not really over the top of your face, relax. It's sort of in the corner. I'll run through a couple of really quick bios for everyone that's interested and not from Australia or doesn't know of these three glorious people. Brad has got 20 years of professional lighting and design experience. He's worked in theatre, musicals, broadcasts, concerts, anything that takes a light, Brad appears to have done. His designs have been featured all throughout Australia, Asia, the Middle East, and even Europe. And it spans hundreds of productions. In 2007, he co-founded his own lighting and vision production company called BAACLight. And Brad is currently the creative director for acts such as Tina Arena, Guy Sebastian, The Veronicas, and Rock Wiz. Down in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got Richard Neville from Mandylights. Richard is a lighting and production designer with credits spanning from theatre, fashion, see, Brad doesn't do fashion, we've got a difference here, television, dance parties, concerts, and even corporate events.
Even corporate.
Even corporate events. That actually in the bio, it's just how my brain read it. He even will stoop as low as corporate. And also around the world. He's the founder and co-owner of Mandylights, which has offices in Australia and the United Kingdom. Mandylights is the region's first dedicated lighting and visual design firm. And Mandylights has completed hundreds of jobs in 60 countries over the last 14 years. And finally, from what looks like his living room, but it is in fact Dave Fairless's office, we have Dave Fairless of Colourblind. And before we get confused, he is not colourblind, he just works for Colourblind. Dave started out as a lighting operator in nightclubs in Brisbane, my condolences. He quickly developed his skills, I disagree with that, and then moved into the world of touring, leading him to join Colourblind in 2015. David's passion for lighting design and operation continued to grow over the years, and he has been involved in countless national and international tours and even festivals. In his current role, he is a creative director at Colourblind, and David continues to program and design industry-leading light shows and visual art experiences for a variety of audiences. Gentlemen, welcome.
Sorry, Alex.
Thanks,
Before we go on, could I just say, hey Siri, turn the lights red? Because I know Richie's gonna.
No, you didn't say it loud enough. So.
Oh, what a shame!
Screw you.
been dying to do that throughout the entire bios. So look, we've got a couple of questions coming through from the chat, but due to the fact that we're on a 30-second delay, I might just ask a couple of canned questions that we've got. So I'll start with Richard. How have you been sort of keeping busy during the downtime? What have you been up to?
It's been a bit interesting for us. We've got a lot of ongoing projects, so there's been a few things to sort of keep us busy, and we've sort of been paying a little bit of attention to that. And then we've got a couple of new things on the go. So I found myself with like probably more time than I've ever had, like in, I don't know, as long as I can remember, just to play with some ideas. So I picked a couple of projects that I really wanted to work on. Spent almost like a solid month on this sort of light art concept thing, which has now hopefully got legs and sort of rolling without me. So that's been like kind of straight. It's kind of been this like mix of like feeling strangely liberated, but then also absolutely terrified for the state of the industry and the business and kind of everything else. So I'm currently kind of trying to balance like a couple of days at home working on stuff that I want to work on that excites me, with then a couple of days at the office kind of dealing with the realities of what we're going through. So it's been like a bit of a mix, but like feeling cautiously optimistic, I guess.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
What about you, Dave Fairless of Colourblind?
Well, being optimistic is the best way to be right now. And I guess having creative ideas and coming up with different plans about how and what we can do after we come out of this, and what this, like, we've been obviously having quite a lot of conversations with the industry people about how the industry will come back and what it's going to look like when it does, and how we're going to be able to adapt to that, because I don't see us doing 10,000 cap venues recently, like soon, you know. So it's about having conversations with a lot of people and deciding where we're going to take our shows and stuff like that. And like, that's where that's a lot of time I've been spent talking to clients and artists about those sort of ideas. But a lot of other time we've been spent is kind of like Rich, is like really taking a hold of a passion project, something I haven't had time to do at all, and really pursuing it and refining the nuts and bolts of it, and seeing where it can go, and if potentially down the line that could be something that I incorporate into my portfolio and I use for my shows. So it's about a little bit of balance between home life, of course, and keeping creative down at the office, and keeping doing a lot of different little tasks, you know, and having just being able to do stuff that you haven't been able to do in the past. That's a big thing that I've taken from this time, for sure. And sleeping, lots of sleep.
Yeah, right. That's really good to hear. And what about you, Brad? Have you been keeping busy?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, realistically, you know, look, for the first time in 20 odd years, you have an extended window in front of you of time where it's not filled up with concerns of company or creative. And so you tend to return to the things that you always enjoyed when you were younger. And in my case, it's cycling. And I tend to spend a lot of time out there with myself, just thinking about, you know, what are things going to be like on the other side. You know, obviously we're you know, all three of us would be very well aware that there's going to be a recession off the back of this, and how we as a creative group respond to that and support all of the people that work for and around us. But also for me, I've also been spending a bit of time with Tina and helping her with some of her Instagram stuff. She's never technically been in those environments before, so they're quite hilarious to watch. I highly recommend tuning in. There's a lot of dropouts and a lot of technology fails, but same as the lads. You know, just realistically, there was a lot happening very quickly. So you know, now that it's settling down, it's probably more personal time for me, and just, you know, spending time thinking about, okay, cool, what's next.
Yeah, fair enough. That's look, I reckon it's personally, I think it's been really hard to sort of keep motivated, because it's not like you've got 2 weeks off between tours and you know that you're going to go back to something. It's kind of a horrifying thought that you know, seemingly all of you have echoed, that it's an unknown time. And, you know, as we've said, you know, we're not going to be coming back to massive concerts in a couple of weeks. It could be months, and it could be even a year. And that's, you know, that's unfortunately the way that it is. And yeah.
I did a plot the other day, like a creative plot for a client that I currently work with, and I dated it summer touring 2021. It was very strange to do. Hey, I was like, damn.
Caught a time warp.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting though, because there's like a couple of the artists that bunch of the artists that we work with, like, there's kind of this weird hesitation at the moment of, like, everyone was obviously working on things up until the start of March. So things have been paused, things have been stopped, but album cycles are still continuing and what have you. And it's going to be really interesting to see, as different markets start to emerge, like, there might actually end up being this scramble for venues, because obviously there's only so many venues to go to. And it's, you know, like, on one hand, you've got this like complete decimation of the industry, but then on the other hand, there's like, there could actually be more work than anybody's ready to, like, you know, sort of, you know, take on, with just the sheer number of people who need to get out to make money, to express themselves and everything else. So you kind of like sit there when you get bogged down thinking about it, like, there's everything from this to this, like, that it might end up as, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, we'll quickly go through a couple of questions that we've had. We've got lots of shout outs from people. Looks like we've got, you know, a fair amount of people that are interacting. Someone is asking about Camsys. We're going to completely ignore them because no one here uses Camsys.
Probably industry professionals.
Oh, well, yeah, no, I am using a little bit of insider information. I know that one is currently enjoying their Camsys.
Okay.
We might come back to that later. One question that we've had specifically for David Fairless is, can you explain the Colourblind delicatessen?
What are you talking about?
Apparently Colourblind are going into meats or something.
Meat. Ah,
This is seriously a question that's been asked. I don't know the origin. Are you in fact a delicatessen?
I can show. I'll get it.
Hey,
Well, long story short, our director Lyndon was at his local Coles, who was shutting down their deli section, and instead of just buying 200 grams of ham, he decided to buy the full 4 kilograms on the spot, super cheap price, got it good. So now we are a ham dealership potentially. I'm not too sure, but hey, it's working for us.
So is this like a profitable thing or just like a friends and family thing?
It's all about the pivot, right?
Whoever needs some good ham, hit us up. You know, we've got that for you right now. So that's how I can answer that question.
Right. Okay.
Nice.
Fair enough.
Solid.
So, yeah. So obviously, two out of 3 of you are working from home. Dave's at the office. Rich and Brad are at home. How have you transitioned to working from home? Just generally as a conversation rather than sort of singling people out.
I've taken over my living room, and I kind of started with just my laptop, and then the laptop expanded to like a couple of extra monitors, and then I bought some of that Stage Kings furniture to prop it all up. And then I needed to do a little bit of previs, so I ended up with our MA2 wing here, which then expanded into a bit more previs. So now there's an NPU on the back of the table. And then I started with the monitor speakers, and then got some studio monitors in here. So as every week goes by, my work from home is kind of like expanding across the living room. But I'm trying to like just keep it to this corner. I'm usually like an absolute stickler. I don't have anything at home for work normally. Like the office is only 15 minutes away, and part of the reason why I have an office, apart from to keep other people in, is so I have like a really definite separation, and that's probably been one of the hardest things for me, of like being able to just like get up and walk into work. Like I don't like that. I like coming home and not having anything to other than like color changing lights. I don't have anything to do with work in my apartment. So it's been a bit of a transition, I think, to still kind of keep that work-life balance thing separate.
Yeah, right. And what about you, Brad? Obviously, I can see you've got a MIF 4 behind you.
yeah, so I'm exactly the same as Richie. So literally the factory and the office is, 10 minutes up the road here. So I'm the same. I can't have work at home. I lose my marbles if work is in my living space. And there has to be a time when your head is switched off. Having said that, realistically, the MIF sitting here which is Guy Sebastian's playback rack, and obviously just like the boys, there's things that we're doing that they're, one of the guys was saying before, those projects that you always wanted to do, it's exactly that, the thing that you needed to learn about that has failed on you in the past, so yeah, working from home. It's great, Alex. What can I? It's absolutely horrible, to be brutally honest. But it gets done. So
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Dave? Obviously, you're currently in the office, but have you, during any period, taking any hardware home or?
I haven't really been taking hardware home. I've been very, very, very fortunate to have this office space just around the corner from my home, and I live in a 1-bedroom apartment with my partner. So she's currently working from home, and if I started to take equipment home and whatnot, and I think the dynamic at home would change quite a lot, and it'd be invading that space, which has been something that I definitely wanted to stay away from. And I've just been so fortunate to have this place, this office here, that I've been able to work with my colleagues, because there's only been 4 of us, maybe even like 3 most weeks in here. So there's not very many people. We're also staying keeping quite isolated and whatnot. And it was only me in here today, sort of thing. So just sort of looking at like coming in, doing your project, working on it, and then going home and having a good rhythm there has been very, very awesome for me. So I've been super thankful for that, definitely.
Yeah, right. And so you haven't taken any work home. You haven't found yourself opening a laptop, or choosing to work from home at all. I haven't had the need to, because the projects I've been working on haven't been correspondence, I guess, really at the moment, where normally all of us would be sitting in our beds or sitting on our couch on our laptops replying to emails at 9 to 10 p.m. at night. I feel like that sort of thing that I was doing at home has completely stopped. So I bring my ideas here. Like, of course, I'm going to bed every night at 9 p.m. Like, oh yeah, I need to do this thing. I need to program that, and I can come down here and have a creative outlet down here. So I haven't taken anything home. I haven't done anything. And I think that's been really good for my mental health and been something that I'm like just super, super thankful and fortunate to have, being able to have that separation that you both were just talking about. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's good. It's good to not be able to bring work home with you. It's a very lucky position to find yourself in.
Yeah.
Have you, I guess a question to all of you, have you been struggling sort of, even if you haven't been bringing work home, with a work-life balance, given the fact that you might not have pressing deadlines? Are you finding it difficult to sort of, I don't know how to say it, to sort of divide like what is work and what is home time, now that it's you've got no deadlines, I guess?
Look, absolutely. I think for me, I'm almost certain the guys would be the same. Is that you become a little confused because if you think about it realistically, 7 weeks ago we were all going flat stick. You literally you were literally trying to find hours in the day, and you just didn't know what was coming up next. And then all of a sudden you've got this what appears to be an unlimited amount of time ahead of you. So I know for me it was certainly difficult. It's been a difficult.
It's good to see both of you not wearing your pajamas right now, or just tracksuit pants.
Hey, you can only see my top half.
Yeah,
I did say this chat was not for children, but I didn't really mean.
I used to work from home, and when I lived in Brisbane, I used to be in a situation where my work was at home. I used to have my this talking back like old days, my little hog forewing set up in the corner, and I did find it tough then to separate like what's like when you go to bed, or like what do I need to keep sitting here and keep looking at things. And I feel that would be something that you both would be struggling through right now, is how long are you going to sit in front of that monitor for? How long are you going to keep doing that playback? How are you going to break that time up? Yeah, definitely.
I think it's been really interesting. Like if we like suggested Zoom meetings or like a video conference thing, like even 12 weeks ago, you would have been like, oh, this is a bit weird. But it's amazing. It's like someone just flipped a switch and like this just became normal. And I think we've tried to find a couple of ways at Mandylights to like keep a few degrees of normalcy. So like, we have like a Monday morning catch up for everybody, and we all work like Mondays and Tuesdays, even if we're not like all working all week and that sort of thing. And even things like Zoom, like the fact that it is still face-to-face, and that's just sort of become normal in the last few weeks. Like it helps you actually, get out of bed and look presentable and actually, go to the office if you need to be at the office for those things or whatever. So I think it's just any like little bit of normality that you can like grab onto at the moment. It's kind of like, yes, look, society hasn't collapsed yet, right?
Absolutely. It's the first shirt I've worn in 7 weeks, Alex. And the Wilson soccer ball's just over here. So
yeah, nice.
You know how I feel about your Lycra, Brad. You've got pictures of me looking horrified with you wearing a skin tight Lycra. I had to go to therapy after the last time I saw you in that Lycra.
So you're obviously still slightly hunching down in your chair there.
Uncrossing my legs. I don't even know what I mean.
Good, moving on.
That's a weird reference.
Can I just say though that I don't know if the lads ever get this. Is this a little bit like the Brady Bunch? Because I got 4. Like I'm waving down here at Richie.
Yep.
It is. Yeah. fair enough.
Hi.
It's a little bit like that, but I guess Richard's point on the fact that Zoom really quickly became so normal for everyone, it even surprised me. I mean, we scheduled this, and I scheduled all of you to be online 15 minutes before, because I expected one of you to at least go, what's Zoom? How do I download it? What's this link? You know, how do I enter this password? And, you know, you all showed up, you know, with audio working and video working, like, so congratulations, you're now AV techs. So add that to your resume.
It's something that on Zoom I started to really utilize it quite a lot now, and talk to people I used to work with, and even present old clients and present clients with pitch documents, and having this face-to-face interaction, but also being able to share my screen and go through and talk about each slide or what we want to do with the show, and keeping those ideas like real without having a face-to-face meeting, and still being able to show your image without having to go and see each other. I think it's a fantastic technology that we all should be we all obviously are using quite well. So
yeah,
it's been great.
And do you think it'll have a lasting impact on the industry? Do you think that we've just seen the end of events? Do you think that there will be a lot more augmented reality and VR events? Or do you reckon we'll go through sort of a period where it'll be the next biggest thing, you know, holding a virtual concert in Fortnite or something, and then it'll die off because people will still want the experience of, you know, having a sticky floor and sitting in a chair and getting blinded by lights?
Can I just jump in first? And and I'm sure the boys will agree. Nah.
Yeah.
There is nothing like a real room and the actual energy of you know, be it 5 people or 5,000 people. I don't care.
That atmosphere is something that I think all of us just live off and thrive off. And I think that like we all are adapting right now to these VR worlds and these augmented realities and doing things like this, but putting a show in, putting a big show back on, or even a small one, as you said, like it's just that the people in the room, that atmosphere is something that like I think we're all craving again, and something that we all want, definitely.
I think it's like absolutely agree. Like you can't beat a live experience, but I think the really interesting thing that's going to come out of this is there is going to be like a bunch more diversification. Like this is, you know, a bunch of times, you know, you'll be having beers after a festival or something, and you're like, oh, you know, did you see that thing with the AR element, or this thing with this cool interactive thing, or this, you know, there's been a couple of things on Fortnite before, like Travis Scott's thing last week. But this is actually going to force people to, well, or you just go and explore these things, right? Like people are exploring ways to do augmented reality, and it's become like it's turned a side interest into like necessity. And I think it's at stuff like that for anybody, whether you're like a freelancer or you have a company, or, you know, no matter what your role in this industry, the more you're able to diversify and spread things so we don't necessarily rely solely on the live experience, then that's what's going to help us through the next time this happens, or whatever the next thing is, right? Like if next time we're all a bit better set up to go online, or to, you know, do things other than stand at front of house, then like everybody is going to be in a better position, and everybody's going to be stronger and better for it, right? Like I think that's one of the big things.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, like the unnecessary flights to Sydney to have a meeting potentially is covered by Zoom now.
The unnecessary flights to Melbourne, I really do.
Yeah, it's those sort of things. And like what you were just saying, Rich, just gave me a great idea. And how do you set up a festival or a smaller style festival that only accommodates a few thousand people to have an augmented reality for hundreds of thousands all around the world? And those could be possibilities and things that people are researching. And I guess all of us and other LDs and other creatives out there are deciding and figuring out how to use these technologies. And I think that everybody right now is upping their skill base and learning more technologies to be able to do these things. So I think it's going to have a really positive effect when we come out of it, you know, and what we're able to do with shows and whatnot, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And you know, even in the last like 8 weeks, like the Travis Scott thing, if you haven't watched it, like I think is a brilliant piece of like coherent production design. Like it's got a narrative in it. It's not just a guy standing in Fortnite. Like there's a really, really good show that's been put together. Then there's that what's it called, Alex? Lux Partnum interactive thing that launched on a couple of Facebook channels last week. It's like this huge interactive light installation that's set to like Paul Van Dyk's music, and like you're seeing these like amazing bits of like creativity come out from people who, you know, we were all doing the same thing, and now everyone's going like off this way or off that way, and it's actually like really exciting to watch. So it's what I was saying before. It's like exciting and terrifying, exciting and terrifying. But
I think, but just also to add in on another point there for me is quite literally, I think as a, you know, as an older designer, I actually see a lot of the younger guys, you know, that augmented reality stuff. You can just tell that that's something that's going to be coming through as an exciting thing for the next generation. So it's, you know, there's so many elements involved that it's incredible to see the artists all around doing different things.
Yeah,
you know, especially with Minecraft and all that sort of stuff, it's just phenomenal. It blows your mind that, you know, 9 million people are viewing that stuff in minutes.
Yeah, but it also comes down to the way that you market it, and that's, I think, the biggest issue that people have discovered when trying to bring their events online, such as an artist or especially a DJ, is that great, you can upload it to Facebook, but unless you've got your licensing in line, your video is going to get, you know, demonetized, or worse, your stream is going to be cut short too early. And then there's the case of like, well, that's great when you've just a single person doing it from your bedroom and it's a cool contrived thing, but you still need a level of production on who's going to pay for that. Because, you know, 9 million people is great, but if no one's paying for the Pepsi sponsorship at the back of the shot or the merch tents or any of that, it's really hard to make money off. And I think that's where it's really struggling. And I think that's why we'll never see, you know, a 90% online event style thing, because these technologies have been around for a long time. There's a beautiful one called Waves XR that they did a couple of like motion capped based live performances, and they were unbelievable to watch. But the ticket price was like $150 because that's what it had to be. And everyone sort of balked at that and went, well, why is it that much when my Netflix subscription is, you know, $13 a month? So I think people are going to struggle. And I think hopefully it's going to be temporary. And I hope that I'm not on the wrong side of history on that.
Of course not. You want to go and hang out with your friends in a big space, you know, and I feel like,
drinking alone at home is just sad, dude. Like, even if you're on a Zoom chat with your friends.
It's never sad. I think it's
normal.
I think it's acceptable right now.
So I guess that leads to the question of, you know, with all these other new technologies, have any of you been looking into new skill sets or expanding above, you know, just what you know, like Notch or, you know, even other visualizers? I know, I don't know whether I can say, but I know that you all use L8, by the way, L8, a great visualizer. But have you been expanding on certain other technologies that you normally wouldn't have the time to look at or wouldn't have the interest in? No. Okay. Wow.
No,
just me with my Notch. That's good. That's all right.
I'll jump in. I dabbled in Cinema 4D for a while, trying to create renders of our shows and sort of create like a deeper sort of depth to our renders and making them really just pop out for clients and really bring our vision to life. And it takes a lot of time. And I thought I was building really unique things, and Cinema 4D is such a complex program that I fell back to L8 because I felt that the program that we were using originally, I felt like I could get better at and keep doing more elements in there, and that was going to get me to where I wanted to be, and not necessarily learn another program which I was, but I felt that it was too much work for something I was able to do already with a program that I had. And I feel like advancing through L8 and talking with you, Alex, and creating different ways that I use the program has made my renders pop out in a day. Like I can push out videos, I can push out time-coded videos, I can really show the clients that I'm working with exactly what their show is going to look like without spending a week behind a computer just to make a picture. So it's all about a trial and error right now. And I've also dabbled in After Effects to see if I can make some crazy lines move, and really simple things that you can use through programming and pixel mapping and certain things like that. And if you're on the road, you're like, oh, I really wish I could add that small element to the show. And I've got that sort of skill set now to be able to do that. So that's the kind of time I've spent on my computer just to like go through things, like listen to tutorials, like the endless hours of tutorials is quite a lot. But yeah, it's good to upskill and also learn a little bit about your own process in working and what works for you. And that's kind of how I've taken programs and upskilling from there.
Yeah, I actually went down exactly the same path with Cinema 4D and pretty much arrived at the same conclusion. Like we've got our guys in the UK office have been using Depends pretty solidly for like just over a year now, and they're a long way down that. And I was like, right, I'm going to get like stuck right into Depends. And then as we've worked on a couple of pitches together where we've actually like made a conscious decision to run like L8 side by side with Depends. And there's been some pitches which have like naturally swung towards Depends because they've been like, you know, maybe they're like really bigger rigs or whatever, or they've relied on things like confetti and laser reality and stuff like that, where they slightly have the edge. But then there's also been projects that where we've pushed out of L8, and I think we've sort of found there's like everything sort of complementary at the moment. And I've got a pretty advanced skill set in L8, but the guys are like absolutely screaming on Depends. And so we're like, okay, well, maybe it's not about just dumping and running. Like we've all invested, all of us have invested a lot of money and time and what have you in different pieces of software. So I did that. And then I've kind of made it like a project over the last couple of months to try and spend like a week just with a piece of software, not to try and learn it, but just to try and get an appreciation for the people that do learn it. So I spent a bit of time in Notch, Light Jams, Resolume, what's the other one? Even Mad Mapper and those sort of things. And I've just been like downloading or just paying for like the cheapest version or whatever, and just having a bit of a push and prod and trying to find like what gets people attracted or detracted from those pieces of software. And I don't want to like, I have no intention or desire to like master Notch, and I can play around with it and get some ideas. And it's sort of more like building skills to be able to go, okay, I know the effect that I want, so I know I can go to this person or this piece of software to get that with someone else's help. I don't necessarily need to know how to program it. So I've just got this like huge like inbox of like demo accounts and what have you that I've had going just to try and like just get a taste of everything really. Stuff like you just wouldn't have time to do normally running between gigs, right?
Yeah. I think I look at the same. Look, the same goes for me, except I think maybe for me the upskilling side of things might be a little bit different in that I'm purely blessed that I've got my best mate and my business partner is obviously, you know, Andre, who's always looking at new bits of tech and always communicating with lots of different people on many fronts. And the best bit is Andre will often say to me, go have a look at this. This is something you need to have a look at, depending on what that piece of tech may be. But I think for me, the upskilling component for me has actually been spending the last 7 weeks worrying about the humans that are in our industry. And I think for me, that's been the hardest for me. I think as a creative, it's brutal to actually sit back and be worried about, you know, all those guys and girls that we had working for us and in our teams and all that sort of stuff. And we just can't help them at the moment. You know, I won't deny for a second that it was probably, you know, that week where we had to literally stand everyone down was without a doubt the hardest week that I've had in my career. So I took it upon myself as an upskill to spend, you know, normally you spend all your time forming relationship with clients, and those relationships you hope last forever or a long time. You know, they can't, you know, everything has to come to an end. But I think for me, the upskilling component has been, I need to go and talk to my roadies. I need to go and make sure that my guys that drive the trucks around are okay. Not the guys from ATS that drive the trucks. You know, you know, for the first time in years, it's not, are you in the dock? It's, are you okay? You know, and I think that's been the upskilling bit for me. Not to downside the technology side of things at all, because obviously the technology is amazing and it's absolutely the most important thing that us as creatives need to do. But I think I've been blessed a little bit that I've had a little bit extra time. You know, Ani's kind of gone, hey, listen, here are the 5 things that I want you to look at. They'll work, from a cost effective point of view, or from the point of view of, we can get rid of 5 racks of shit in the back shed. So yeah, I think
fantastic. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I'm the same. I've learned so much more about people that I work with, like their lives and who they have at home and what's going on. I think it's really good to create those bonds and more connections that we have with all the people we work with. I think that's amazing, Brad. Well done.
It's tough.
It's a really tough situation, and I couldn't imagine being. So I probably can't really reveal too much information, but I would class David and I as employees of companies. I am lucky enough, one of the companies that I work with has put me on JobKeeper, and that has saved me from going out and having to work at Coles, and it means that I can sit here and do something like that. But to the other 2 people in this sort of panel that we've got here, Brad and Richard, both have that daunting task of having to employ people on a regular basis, and that's a horrifyingly stressful thing that I couldn't imagine doing. I don't think any one of us went into the industry with the aim of managing people, but throughout the process you end up with this team around you, and when the money runs out, I couldn't even imagine what it's like to be in that position for you guys. That's
look, sorry, Richie.
No, go Brad, go you.
Look, I know that without our guys and girls, this wouldn't happen. It doesn't matter how creative you are. My hat comes off straight away. You just can't. You can't do anything without a team of people that are willing to get that thing done. And especially when you're in crazy. And Richie's probably a way better example, because you're doing multiple things in different countries, which involve multiple numbers of people. So it's hard, like as I said, like Goz and Jake and all of our guys, having to say to them, realistically, guys, I need you to go, we're going to stand you down. We're not going to terminate you, but we don't have any work. We can't employ for no reason. Thankfully, we could put everyone on JobKeeper, but I could sit here and sugarcoat what's going on, but the reality is there is no industry at the moment, and we all know that. And if the work that there is, if you can get it, that's amazing. Like, I know Richie's got some fingers in pies and stuff, and I know Dave's doing some stuff. And the reality, as I said to the guys earlier, the reality is we stopped, when that day came. And I remember landing after the firefight gig, and I remember standing in that stadium looking at 70,000 people, and everyone was aware of this coronavirus thing. And I was standing looking at these people and going, you could feel that something was coming. And Richie, you were saying that you're in the UK there, and you could tell stuff was going on. And when it all came down and fell apart, you could literally see the bridge in front of you disappear. There was just a precipice. There was nothing. There was a void.
Yeah, it's hard because I think, well, all of us are involved in design companies to some extent, right? And the whole reason why you get into this kind of position as a design company is because you need to build something bigger than yourself, right? And you do that by surrounding yourself with like-minded people who support and nurture you, and you bounce ideas off and spar with and all the rest of it. And so to get into a position, these guys, and I know guys on all of your teams, like everybody goes above and beyond every other day of the year. And so when it all hit for us, we sat down, it's like, okay, how do we try and offer the same level of protection or, accountability to these guys that they offer to us throughout the rest of the year. And we're really lucky to have sort of been able to put everyone on JobKeeper and keep everybody there. But it's really quite brutal. Like when your whole business is based on groups of people, not necessarily on stock sitting downstairs or anything else, you want to retain that. And then hopefully, we're all hoping that we're going to come out of this in whatever form, and you're going to need those. We all need those people again on the other side of this. So it can't just be as simple as cutting ropes and letting people loose, because you've found those people, you've worked with those people, you've developed those working relationships with people, you want them there. So it's yeah, it's just been brutal. But I think one of the big things that's like, you know, we do a bunch of work in countries like India and China and what have you, and talking to clients and suppliers and partners over there. Like, we're so fortunate in Australia, like there has been government support, and there has been like some pretty real benefits for small business so far. I mean, I'll also say that the arts community is like a whole different story, but for small business, there has been some stuff there, and it's been interesting seeing what's been offered in the UK and how that equates to Australia. And it's a very different thing, but like, we're so fortunate in the markets that we've been in that, you know, I don't think any of us are looking down the barrel of closing up shop anytime soon, hopefully. But like, there has been support, and yeah, like, I mean, there obviously is always room for more, but yeah, that's sort of the difficult, the people are the hardest thing, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I guess even on the JobKeeper thing, despite it all being announced, it then spurred on a lot of people to start running back to companies and going, well, do I qualify with you? And then it's a question of, you know, does my cash flow support having these people on? Because I don't know, and I probably can't ask the question of if and when that money is landed for people like yourself, Brad and Richard, but I know that it wasn't instant. So I know that you still had to have some sort of money behind you to put people on this JobKeeper with the vain hope that at some point this money was going to appear. And that, you know.
Sorry, Rich, you go.
I mean, it's like, you basically had to pay for everyone's wage for, well, everyone thought it was coming in at the 1st of March, then it was the 1st of April. And I think it's probably, the JobKeeper thing's fine, and you can plan for that. The problem is, it's like, they pushed it back 4 weeks. And then, I mean, I don't know if anybody like is watching from outside Australia. JobKeeper is like a wage subsidization program that the government pays money to the company, and then you pay that to your staff members, which kind of helps them out. The problem is that it was never really clear when the payments were coming in. And then, like, most of us probably got our first JobKeeper payment this week, which was really good. And you're like, okay, cool. It's vaguely what we expected. Let's deal that out. And then you wake up to like news headlines this morning, and they're like, oh, we're reconsidering it. And instead of September, it might stop in June or July or something like that. And you're like, cheers, like, that solved the problem for like 4 weeks. And now I'll just go back to worrying about.
It's our industry that gets forgotten, I guess, in that, because yeah, like it's a tough one. I've been seeing a bit of that, and you just don't know what our industry will get out of the end if it does stop. Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, in entertainment, we are so like blatantly the first ones in and the last ones out, right? Like, we were the first ones affected by the groups, and even like the Australian plan at the moment has no plan beyond groups of 100 people. You know, and then to hear, like, you know, the PM get up there and say, okay, well, this is step 3 when we're pretty much back in full recovery, and people start talking about pulling benefits and what have you. And you're like, my industry kind of relies on more than 100 people in one place at a time. Like, we're not out of that yet. Like, you know, and then the other half of my year is like spent on planes, and that's not coming back anytime soon either. Like, we're trying to work out how to do gigs in the UK in November without Australian people, and then likewise the other way around, and all the rest of it. And we're pretty spread across the world, and if you can't travel to those gigs, that's a pretty big like spanner in the works.
I feel like it's also a change of how we do our work, you know, and not having one person relying on a show, and being able to employ and use people in different areas of the world and the country. I guess, and say, like, I can't go to Brisbane to do a show. I'd love to employ somebody that we know and we've worked with before to take over that charge and do
absolutely.
But sharing, especially like us as creatives and touring LDs, and being able to share that workload with other people that might have missed out on it in the past is really valuable to just everybody.
Yeah.
And I think for me, we were just like Richie, you know, that period of time waiting to see what the actual stimulus was going to be, and how that was going to be affected. And, you know, look, just like everybody here, you know, realistically, we've been in the game long enough, so we know that when money's coming in, you put it away for a rainy day. So we were okay from the point of view of looking after, you know, we were financially secure enough that we could actually leave our staff on normal salary for a month. And then we had to stand them down. And fortunately, exactly the same time that we were standing them down the same day, you know, which was brutal for us because Oni and I did all the meetings, you know, on the day, and, you know, the tears flowed. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the PM gets up and says, "Oh, by the way, this is what we're gonna do." And then, of course, Andre has to scramble for 5 weeks to sort out all the tax returns. Richie, you know exactly where I'm going here. You sit down, you do the mega days of tax returns and sorting out. And this is not a criticism of government at all. It's just me saying, I think, in the arts, we are used to shit going wrong, and we're used to when there's no work there, and we're prepared for that, and and as things that keep changing, same as Richie, hearing the news today, and I'm just like, okay, all right, it's going to be something different next week.
Like a gig.
Just like a gig. We want more lights under the stairs,
And it's not even like a monetary factor as well in terms of just people. There's also equipment costs. So I guess I need to talk personally. I've cried 2 times over this period. Number 1, when I realized that everything was going. And number 2, when I received an email from the finance company that I hired my very expensive QnA console through, that they were going to delay payments. Because while we say and we hope that all the people that work underneath us, work beside us, have been squirreling money away, I didn't have much, and I was very thankful to end up on the JobKeeper. And it was getting really bad at one point where I had to consider, the asset that I just bought. What am I best to do? Because I've got to pay, rent. I've got to pay the office. We've just started up, and I've just come back from a holiday. So I thought, I'm about to head into a bunch of work. Vivid was coming up, so I was going to do a bit of work with Mandylights, which hopefully would have secured a bit of money for me as well. So I had projects
would have secured
lined
a bit
up.
of money for us as well.
Yes, I know. I know. My problems, 5% of what Brad and the rest of you experience. But even from a personal level, as someone who was young, it was horrifying.
I think, just to be clear there, Alex, I think realistically, and I know Rich and Dave will say the same thing here, the emotion is the same. It doesn't matter how big the business is realistically.
No.
And mine is a quarter the size of Richie's. So I don't, it's a tough area. This thing's only just getting started, and that's the thing that really is keeping me awake at night at the moment. The reality is the JobKeeper stuff is putting a false sense of security into what's actually happening. And these companies, we can all sit here and name them. We all know everyone who's taken loans on consoles and all that sort of stuff. That shit's going to get real in a few months' time, realistically. And I think as LDs, we could sit here and beat around the bush. But I think as business people, we also have to be honest and say, hey guys, be honest with yourself. Be honest about, if that piece of equipment is in the way, get rid of the piece of equipment. You can always have the piece of equipment later.
Or consider finance options that just aren't the first one.
Absolutely.
I think the mistake I made was going through a private finance company because I didn't want to do the paperwork for the bank one. And when all the bank sort of loan, delays were announced, I thought, oh, good, maybe the private ones will happen. And it kept going and kept going. And I started reading my contract, which I hadn't read properly. And I went, shit, I'm fucked. I really, really screwed here. They are going to want the full amount of money if I default on 3 payments. So I got really lucky, and I can imagine what it'd be like running a company or just anyone in my same situation that owns equipment going, I've done the maths, and it's not a large percentage, but it's a fair percentage of my monthly wage and income, but I'll be fine. It'll open doors for me. But when everything dead stops, you just don't know what to do. Anyone want an EMA training? Anyone want an MA3? No? Oh, okay.
That, Brad, it's going to be tough, and I think that the best thing for all of us to do right now is just try to take this week by week, day by day. Really, just like go with what's being advised to us, and try to be optimistic. But there's always that really terrifying, glooming feeling over us that we don't know what's going to happen to it. But you've got to stay in the moment, I think, and keep doing what we've all been talking about, and trying to upskill and talk to the people around us and stuff like that, and be together.
Same. Yeah, 100%. Like, as I said, realistically, we all know. I'm still gonna You know, if I find our guys, you know, or any of the crew that are having to work packing shelves, you know, well, the same would be for me. I'm not going to think anything less.
No, yeah.
You know, 100%. You know, in fact, the respect level will just go through the roof. So, it's not easy. You know, it's not going to be easy for any of us. And I think, you know, having the other side of this is reality is we have to deal with a recession as well. And I think as creatives, we're amazed, you know, and I certainly know everyone here has kind of come from a theatre background. So designing with less is actually something we've done our entire, that's how we cut our teeth. So, you know, hanging 1,000 lights on the roof, hey, listen, that's amazing stuff. You know, it's an incredible skill set to have, you know, especially for the creatives. But it's also quite amazing to see, you know, somebody light something with 5 lights where you just, you know, the masking and the creative of it's incredible.
And I think I mean, certainly in Australia, and I'm sure, I mean, I've seen bits of this like sort of start to emerge in the UK as well, but like the prospect of an all Australian festival season this summer is actually quite uplifting. That, you know, this time we might see a falls with like Australian headliners across the whole bill and that sort of thing. And there's such a huge number of talented people in our countries. And obviously, like, I mean, Australians do great all the way around the world and vice versa and everything else. But like the opportunities that hopefully come out of this to see more Australian acts given that boost up to be even in night, you know, with us as LDs, right? To have more Australian acts in nighttime slots over summer is going to be awesome. And like, it's actually hopefully going to push that talent up and the talent in our industry and similar industries and what have you too. And
I think we might, oh, sorry, no, keep going, Rich.
That's the big optimism thing. No, it's all right. Go.
No, but it's definitely, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity for all of us, like techs and suppliers and whatnot, and not having container ships flowing over from overseas and having everything sourced locally and local crew, you know. And I feel like that's going to be a huge asset to all of us and to get us all back to work really quickly, I think.
Yeah.
And I think the first festival that eventually goes ahead with it, everyone's going to be watching and going, is this going ahead? What restrictions is it going to have? Because I've heard rumours of a lot going ahead. You know, obviously we've heard that Falls are committed to an all-Australian lineup, and everyone in the industry from a booking level have gone, yeah, that's great, but good luck getting a full audience and, you know, good luck getting it through. So whether it actually happens or not, you know,
Mate,
we hope and pray because we need it.
I'll go and stand in a field with 1,000 other people just to go and stand in a field with 1,000 other people at the moment. Shit. And I think it'll get to that stage, right? Like, seriously, you're going to go back to Falls because you just want to go to Falls, or you're going to want to go to field day because it's field day. And like, I went to like dinner at a friend's house last night, and it was like the first dinner we've been to in months. And it was just like, it was an all vegetarian menu. And if anybody knows me, that's like not an option. And I sat there and I ate like fake duck from a Thai takeaway in Newtown because I just wanted to get out of the house. You know, like, and I think that's going to be the same with festivals. Like Australia, it's not like it's a bad thing to have an all Australian lineup. Like, there's some great acts, and there's going to be more great acts to come out of it. And like, it can, you know, we're looking at like this Parchima festival that we do in Alice Springs each year, and that's slated at the moment for like the end of September. And the event was supposed to be in April, it got moved to September. And like, there's so much promise if that can go ahead, because there's going to be this whole local market able to go out there who literally can't go anywhere else. It's like the cashed up people, you're not, you know, other than maybe a ski in New Zealand in the next few months, you're not going to be able to go anywhere else. So it should be great for domestic tourism. And then if you look at like light art markets and that sort of stuff, like, people are going to want to get people back into the cities. They're going to want to get people spending money and back in experiencing stuff. So even though Vivid might be gone and maybe White Knight will go and that sort of thing, like, there's going to be experiences. People want to have fun. And one of the cool things, the positions that we're in, like as a broader like lighting industry at the moment, is that the whole world in the last few years has suddenly realized that like a whole bunch of lights outside or visual arts experiences are actually like a form of legitimate mass public entertainment, right? And what better way to get people into cities, especially Sydney, where nothing happens and there's no other reason to go into Sydney, than like a whole bunch of lights or things like that. And so it's actually quite interesting at the moment just to see the number of tenders that are out, the number of like governments and what have you are poking around going like, okay, well, what if we could do this and that? And, you know, lighting in itself is a way to get people together and a way to like reinvent spaces, and that's what people are going to have to do on the other side of this to encourage people to get back out and explore, again, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Top tip for you, Rich, just a really quick one. You should probably hit up Singapore Airlines to see if you can help light their fleet out there.
Absolutely, right? I saw that in Alice Springs.
Yeah,
there's more A380s in Australia than there ever has been in my lifetime.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
That was my little sub.
I think they're going to be there for quite a while.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think a couple of them will stay there forever.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but yeah, go light up some planes and.
Go light up anything, like,
Yeah.
and, the thing a couple of weeks ago, and I know it's like been around the world, is like really, heartening to see that people are putting, the UK thing's become huge, where it's basically like, if you can put a blue light on it, it's had a blue light on it the last few weeks. And, even if it's not directly raising awareness for the fact that the entertainment industry is screwed everywhere, it's kind of like, encouraging to see people going out there doing things. If it's not these huge interactive installations or groundbreaking things, like just going out and doing what we all love doing, right? Like putting some lights out and playing with lights. That's why we all got into this, even though some of us are, in it up to our eyeballs or with businesses or whatever else. Like we're all in it just to play with lights. And it's like quite liberating just to be able to take some lights out and play, right?
And can I think just one thing from me to anyone in the, from the broader companies that are watching is just how amazing it was to watch everyone jump into Light Unite the other week. That was and well done to Kat to actually
absolutely
get that thing happening. The reality for that is, even though everyone is in a position where no one's quite sure where the money's coming from next week, all the companies and all the crew still got out in their front yards and did something. And I don't know about you, but if that's not community, I don't know what is. Like. Yeah, it's just amazing to see that stuff. So yeah.
The company that we share here, the office that I'm in is part of an AV company, and they set up a bunch of lights for Light Unite. The company's ALV Productions. I think they did a couple of videos on it as well. And I remember being there on the night, and it has been weeks since I've seen smiles on faces for just uncoiling cables, and everyone involved was loving it. It wasn't about, a hard job or using slightly inferior Sharpies. It was just about getting out, programming some lights, and people were driving past and asking, what show is on? Well, it's Light Unite. What's that? Where's the audience? Well, there isn't an audience. We're just kind of, saying thanks to all the essential workers and stuff. And they couldn't really comprehend why you'd bother putting in the hours.
I must live somewhere near to Nimbin, because everyone thought there were UFOs around my place. So I don't know what to say about that.
Well, we're in Williamstown, so probably less UFOs, more planes. And that was the other thing, the calls that were made to CASA and stuff like that. When the organizer here of the event called, they went, "Oh, is it the Light Unite thing? Yeah, we've had a couple of calls. Yeah, that's fine. Just, stay within these parameters."
We got rejected. We're like right under the main flight path for Sydney Airport, and they're like categorically no. And it's like, what if what if we no? Just no. So
I know. I think Owen, who was the caster guy in Melbourne here, he rang me to say there was a whole bunch of people calling in on the day of the event, and he said, Brad, I can't. Are you? And I'm like, you're gonna have to say no.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming to the end. We've been streaming for about 57 minutes. I reckon we'll take probably one question or so from the chat. Look, a lot about the JobKeeper. A lot of people echoing what you've all said. Some people criticizing me for my poor financial choices of buying an MA3 when I should have bought a Kansas.
Oh wow!
But YouTube chat does not give a shit. Something to the point of like 5-to-1 ratio. Should have bought a hog. I guess
that wasn't me, by the way. I didn't buy that. I'm not in the back.
No, we can see the fingers like at the bottom. Yeah.
Buy hog. No. It's been an absolute pleasure getting together with you guys and doing this. We should definitely do it more. Do you have any final notes? Well, I'm kind of stalling for time for one more question. Does anyone have anything to say other than, I guess, in a time like this, feel free to reach out to people, call people, go from your address book, go top to bottom, just randomly calling. All they can do is wake them up. Maybe don't do it at like 8 a.m. I've discovered trying to call people and wonder what they're up to at 8 a.m. doesn't work because not everyone keeps office hours. But
yeah, look,
I guess right now, yeah, go ahead, Rich.
I've had like a bunch of really good calls with people from the lighting community and then from video companies and audio companies. And I think the one thing is like, it's amazing how tough everybody's doing it, whether, you know, and I think the people that we, you know, might think as being big players in the industry have very human problems, the same as the freelancers and, you know, local venue technicians and what have you have problems as well. And there is no business I know that is operating as usual. There's no person who is operating as usual. And I think there's a very like human opportunity to go and talk to your boss or talk to your staff or talk to people you haven't spoken to for a while or whatever, because it's actually like a great leveler across the industry. Everyone's lights are sitting there doing nothing. Everyone's consoles are fucked with repayments. Everybody is in the same position, and there is no Australian company or broader company anywhere in the world that is immune to what's going on. And, you know, even chatting to, you know, guys from Oceania in New Zealand or, you know, suppliers in India or whatever, like everybody's doing it tough at the moment. And the value of picking up the phone and talking to people or doing something like this or bitching about it on the YouTube chat or whatever else, like it's everyone's in the same boat here. Nobody's got a free ticket through this. And, you know, it's knowing that everybody else has got your back in this. You know, we've said to all our guys, come and talk to us. We've spoken to old contractors and old employees, and some people have come back and some people are, you know, working with us on other projects. And it's just like, you know, there's some good in this that especially the Australian industry, which can get quite competitive, can get quite narky and all the rest of it. Like we're all on the same thing here. And I think it's been good to talk to people like, and just sort of understand that there's other people going through the same process.
Yeah, I think if I can also echo those comments, you know, I think for me is just the fundamental respect that I've always had for the people that are in this room, for example, but also the broader lighting, the design community, and all of our crew. And the reality is, you know, it's always been, you know, when you see other companies do stuff, there might be an element of jealousy, but at the same time, you're 100% proud of the fact that one, that's an Australian designer, and two, that's an Australian company that's doing that stuff. And there's no doubt in my mind that on the other side of this, we're going to need every single one of the crews that are out there, and regardless of where you are in the industry, you know, whether you're at the end and pulling out or whether you're at the very start in your first week, you know, it's the industry hasn't changed. It certainly looked after me for all these years and all of my weirdness. So, you know, yeah, just really look after each other, really look after your people that you're connected to. You know, and this stuff's going to get tougher before it gets better, you know, realistically. And I think that's when you really need to stand up and say, you know, we're there and we can hear. And I know there's going to be days where I'm going to need to call out. I'm telling you now, you know, Richie, 2 a.m. that phone call's coming in. And Dave, you know, I'm coming that Parkan up there. I'm coming over to
I'll let you know how it goes. You know, I've got a few more tests to do. You know, it's working. It's growing. You know, the little things. Looking after your own mental health and reaching out and talking to people and keeping that really, really Australian mateship thing happening right now is, I think, really essential for all of us, you know, and just we're all in it together. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's great. It's good.
I really have to thank you all for coming and doing this. I put together the Australian one, and I will also try to put together a US one that's in a different time zone so that it could benefit, you know, people that will be asleep right now.
All their websites are like,
well,
in the morning.
You say that,
no,
but it's kind of like doing a wedding. Certain people will appear with certain other people, and when I put the call outs, we couldn't get everyone that we got, but no one said, "Oh, I won't do it if this person is doing it." And that's just the most fantastic thing.
The Americans are all out buying guns, so it's gonna...
And we
I love you guys. I love you. I do love you. I do love you.
You've just criticised the ones with the guns, Brad. That's what
they can't come here at the moment, can they? So
no, I'm safe for the minute. I'm surrounded by toilet paper, so.
We'll end with one question that we've had, so I might get one tip from each of you, and I'll stall to give you a bit of time to think about the question. But a question has come in that says, any advice for young players to weather through the storm to get through normality? If you could give one piece of advice, I guess, what would be the technology, or what would be the one thing that you'd recommend that people sort of do more research on or spend more time on? Is it spending more time in MA building layout views, or is it bettering like vision skills? What do you reckon?
Look, I'm a creative, so 100% creative. So the reality for me would be spend the time understanding your choices in how you light things and how you feel. You know, when you walk into a space, what do you actually feel? How do you actually connect with that space? What are you saying when you do something with your lighting and all that sort of stuff? I know the technology is amazing, and please don't take this the wrong way, but I think as designers, you know, realistically, everything is emotion based. So for the young guys and girls out there, I would say the technology will come, and you're going to have to spend those nights at 3 a.m. you know, with the 4 beers lined up in a row, learning how to do a circle effect on the new MA2, for example.
MA3.
MA3, sorry. Sorry guys, good laughing down the bottom there. Because obviously in Hog we're still working on the same circle that we've had since 1993.
Mate, it's a good circle. It's great. I'm a big Hog fan. It's great. It's good. It's much easier. But yeah, you're right. You're so right. But it's really taking as a creative, just even sitting down with a piece of like a pen and paper, drawing shapes, drawing some sort of things you like and dimensions, and then being able to take that drawing that you have and putting it into a previous previous software like ALIA, and then attaching an MA to it, and then like how are you going to have that talk together and working out the networking and all those things that we've spent so many years learning over time. Obviously, all coming from theatre and then up through the ranks through, like I started in nightclubs and stuff like that. So it's about doing those hard yards and learning those things in this downtime that will make you a better tech, a better LD, a better creative at the end of it, you know? Definitely.
Yeah. There's also, like, I guess kind of on from what I was saying, if you're young and starting out, there isn't a company or a designer that doesn't have a bit of time at the moment. And like, I know when I was starting out, I used to like harass people like Mark Brickman and Tom Kenny and those guys, like people who I really looked up to with their designs, and just email them and go, how did you do this? Or what did you do? Or I just really like this, or, you know, can I come and sit with you on this or whatever? Like, it's amazing how accessible those people are. You tend to like idolize people in your career, and but all those people are an email away, and between a couple of Facebook groups or whatever, you can get in touch with those people really, really easily. So send them an email, pick their brains about what they do, but then most importantly, take all of that, work out what you want to do and what you want to specialize in, what music like does it for you, what theater does it for you, or whatever, and follow that, because the industry is big enough that you don't have to copy people. You don't have to aspire to do a particular festival or a particular artist, because somebody is already doing that and that. So, you know, go down that path and work out what you want to do, spend your time on that and build that for you. All four of us here have like built companies or built relationships or built our careers based on what we want to do. We're all lighting designers in Australia. We all have our own talents. We've all pushed very differently, and we're all, you know, thankfully like pretty successful in what we've been doing. So like, don't feel like you have to just build another stage model in MA3D. If you find that Cinema 4D is the thing for you, then go and do that, because that can be your point of difference. Or if you find something completely different, or if you go and build something else, like you don't have to learn MA. You don't have to learn to learn LA. You don't even have to learn Vectorworks or anything. Like, find the thing that works for you and do that, and take this time to work out what that is.
Yeah, learn networking. My one piece of advice would be the next generation, if you want to guarantee a job, especially with dealing with sort of older LDs, is now that ArtNet and SACN are becoming bigger things, there are a lot more people, especially at festivals, that are coming and going, here's my show file, here's the desk that I ordered, and you tell them things like, oh, just you need to go out of these ArtNet universes, and they think that you're speaking another language. So if you can sort of spend a little bit of time and do a basics course in networking, you will definitely be ahead of other people that just know lighting. Great.
Or
cool,
hire
know how
Alex
to
to do your front of house.
No, don't.
I was about to say that, Rich.
Yeah, no. So on that point, I seem to have built a career of telling people how to be better than me at a lot of things. And I absolutely love that, because through the interaction that I've had with this YouTube channel that we're all on, I've seen the little bits that I give out on little bits of MA features and other consoles and even L8, and the things that people come back with are 10 times what I've shown and demonstrated. And I absolutely love that. And I think that's the best thing. So yeah, as everyone has said, reach out, ask questions, email people, don't spam them, but email. And if you don't get a response within 2 weeks, email them again. You know, get in touch.
Can I also just add on to Richie there? I think there was one thing that I did want to say. That was my only criticism of generally the younger people that I see coming through at the moment, and that is there's an expectation that the companies will train them that we have some sort of radar that tells us, oh, that person needs to be trained in something. And I know everybody in this room, quite literally, when you were younger, you would give your right foot to take a piece of equipment home and learn it for a week of time. And I'm telling you, all the companies have equipment in store right now, and they would be more than happy, saying, I know our guys have got equipment out that they're learning stuff that they would never normally have time. And to be honest, we can't afford to spend lots of time training on a lot of this stuff as well. The expectation is that you skill yourself so that you can future-proof yourself as well. So yeah, just further to what Richie said, you need to go and get it going on. Yeah.
All right, I think we might wrap it up there for this evening. Thank you everyone for coming, both answering all the good questions, answering the best questions. You've had the best questions. There you go. There's a Donald Trump reference. And
the greatest questions.
And one note I have for Brad is some people in the US have watched this. Apparently they've got up at 4 a.m. and you're now at the top of their list of people to be annoyed by. Apparently they're watching with their gun in hand. Comments. So take that as you will, but
I'm going straight to Mythbusters to learn how much toilet paper I need to protect me from a 48. Hey Siri, turn the lights red.
Siri, turn the lights red.
Damn it.
Yeah. All right, we'll cap it there. Thank you very much, everyone.
Guys,
Thanks, guys.
girls.
See you later.
See ya.
Bye.